This is one of the most pathetic stories you will see in the history of true crimes. It is quite pathetic due to the level of terror the victim had to pass through before she gave up in the hands of her abductors. After her death, her killer did what I think is the most shocking part of this story. So do well to watch this video to the very end so as to get every detail in this video, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. This video contains some gory images and expressions, therefore viewers' discretion is advised. It is all about 17-year-old Junko Faruta, a high school student who was abducted, assaulted, tortured and raped over 500 times in 40 days by about 100 men in Japan. But before we delve into further details of this case, aggressively smash the like button below, subscribe to this channel, and if you are a fan of true dark and mysterious stories, you are welcome to the hub of dark stories. So do well to turn on the notification bell to keep yourself updated with our subsequent uploads. Junko Faruta was born in Misato, Saitama Prefecture in Japan, where she lived with her parents and her siblings, an older and a younger brother. As a teenage student, she attended a high school in her neighborhood, which she was said to be the brightest in her class due to her outstanding academic grades. And her beautiful facial looks was a sight to behold, which of course made her popular in her school. Growing up, one of Faruta's dreams was to become an idol singer, with fantasies of performing at sold-out events with thousands of people across the globe. Around the month of October 1988, she picked up a part-time job at a plastic molding factory. During after-school hours, she intended to save up her earnings for a graduation trip she had already planned for herself. On the other hand, her abductors were 4 teenage boys, Miyano Hiroshi, Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe. They were known to have perpetrated a series of criminal acts, and they seemed to be on the nerves of residents in the neighborhood. They previously engaged in criminal acts in the neighborhood, including purse snatching, extortion of individuals, stores, and gang rape of innocent and unsuspecting teenagers in the neighborhood. Miyano, the leader of the crime gang, had a history of problematic behaviors since his elementary school, such as shoplifting and damaging the school's property. Around the month of April 1986, he enrolled in a private high school, though he dropped out the following year due to poor academic grades. On 25th of November 1988, Miyano, who was the crime leader, and Minato would wander around Misato with the sole intentions of robbing and raping local women. Misato is a city in southeastern Japan with an estimated population of about 142,835 people. At about 8:30 p.m., they saw Faruta riding her bike home at the other side of the road. After she had finished the shift at the plastic molding factory and was very much exhausted, but she was riding quite fast in order to get home on time and catch up with her favorite TV show called Tombo. Tombo is a Japanese TV series broadcasted in 1988. It was the story of a young rebellious member of the Japanese Yakuza. Under Minato's order, Miyano ran towards Faruta's end of the road, flexed his legs out and kicked Faruta off her bike and fled the scene after making sure she had already fallen to the ground. Miyano, under the pretense of witnessing what happened, approached Faruta to comfort her, telling her he saw what just happened and she should not worry, that he was there to protect her, and he offered to walk her down the road to her home safely. Upon gaining her trust with some comforting words, he forced her into a nearby abandoned warehouse and raped her to his satisfaction and again in a nearby hotel. All this with a threat to kill her if she ever exposed the experience to anyone. From the hotel, Miyano called Minato and 2 other friends and told them something quite shocking. He bragged to them about the rape and all the forceful sexual escapades he had with Faruta. They all made jokes and laughed about it. After some hours of discussion among the gang members, they would decide to keep her captive in Minato's house, whom was one of the gang members, in order to allow more people to sexually assault her. Around 3 a.m. on the 26th of November 1988, Miyano took Faruta to a nearby park, where some other gang members were waiting. By this time, they had learnt her home address from a notebook in her backpack, and that they knew where she lived, that Yakuza members would track down her family and kill them all if she attempted to escape. They took her to a house which was owned by Minato's parents, which would soon become their regular hangout for criminal activities. The Japanese word Yakuza, which literally means gangster in English, is a Japanese criminal gang founded in the 17th century with over 12,000 members across the world. They are popularly known for heavy scary tattoos all over their body and some unconventional ritual practices such as the yubutsume. The yubutsume is a form of ritual practice where they cut off the left finger of a member of the gang whom have breached their code of conduct. As time goes on, subsequently on this channel, we will make a comprehensive video on the Japanese Yakuza, their mode of operations, and why they are the most feared gang in the world. After several days, Faruta's parents became worried about their daughter's whereabouts. They decided to contact the police on 17 November 1988 concerning their daughter's disappearance. In order to frustrate further investigations, her kidnappers forced Faruta to call her parents in 3 different occasions to convince them that she had run away from home but she was safe and was staying with some of her high school friends not very far from the neighborhood. While Minato's parents were present in the house where Faruta was being brutalized, but neither did they question the gang nor call the police. Towards the late hours of 28th November, Miyano invited 2 other boys, Tetsuo Nakumara and Koichi Ihara, to his house. They went to the room upstairs where Faruta was sitting, wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt and a skirt that Miyano had stolen from a clothing store. Later on, they drank cough medicine, pretending it was hard drugs in order to see Faruta's reaction. Faruta, thinking they were high, tried to run away using the stairs and wailing in fear, but Miyano grabbed her leg and held her by the toes and dragged her aggressively while her stomach and her head were galloping on the stairs, till he dragged her back to the room, locked the door. He placed a pillow over her face and placed his arm over the pillow and pressed it with so much force till she fell unconscious on the floor. After all this, the group went ahead to gang rape Faruta while she was lying on the floor without blinking. When she eventually woke up, they forced her to dance naked in front of them and left her in the balcony at night with very light clothing which could not resist the intensity of the cold. By the end of December 1988, Faruta was severely malnourished after being served small amount of food and eventually only milk. Due to her severe injuries and infected bones, she was unable to go downstairs to use the restroom, so she became confined to the floors of Minato's room. In a state of extreme weakness where she pees on the same floor she sleeps. The group held Faruta captive for 40 days in Minato's residence where they repeatedly assaulted and raped her. They also invited other men and teenage boys home and encouraged them to rape her in turns. In the end, Faruta was raped over 500 times in 40 days by about 100 men and teenage boys in Japan. On one of the occasions, she was raped by over 12 men in one day who came in turns to sexually molest her. Faruta's looks was extremely altered from the brutality of the attacks. Her face was so swollen that it was difficult to recognize it was really her. Her body was also badly crippled, giving off a rotten smell that caused the gang to lose sexual interest in her. As a result of Faruta not being sexually attractive as she used to be, the gang kidnapped and raped another 19-year-old woman who, like Faruta, was on her way home from work. By this time, the gang were already full-grown serial rapists. On 4th January 1989, Miyano, after losing a game of Mahjong against someone. Mahjong is a tile-based game that was developed in the 19th century China and has spread throughout the world since the early 20th century. It is commonly played by 4 players. After losing the game, he decided to pour out his anger on Faruta by pouring lighter fluids all over her body and setting her ablaze. While in flames and wailing for help, she attempted to use her hands to put out the fire, but gradually as the flames increased, she became unresponsive and laid flat on the ground. All this time, while Faruta was screaming and wailing painfully, they continued to punch her. They ignited a candle and drilled hot wax on her face, placed 2 candles on her eyelids, and forcefully gave her her own urine to drink. They were not satisfied with the horror that they had done, as she was bleeding profusely and pus were emerging from her infected bones. They covered their hands with plastic bags and they continued to beat her carelessly, flexing hard punches all over her. They did this act for about 2 hours before Faruta eventually succumbed to her injuries and died in pains. When they were arrested, they made some revelations on what they did with her remains. After Faruta's death, in the heat of the group being confused as to what to do with her dead body, everyone bringing different opinions as to what to do to the already decaying body. Afraid of being penalized for murder, they got very thick blankets and wrapped her body in them, shoved it into a travel bag and rolled the bag out of the house like a travel bag filled with luggage. In the luggage bag, Miyano added a tape of the last episode of Tombo, placed it beside Faruta's body because before she died, one of her greatest regrets was not being able to watch the last episode of her favorite TV show, Tombo. According to Miyano, they did this for the fear of Faruta's ghost coming to haunt them. They went to a secluded area in the neighborhood, then went ahead to throw the luggage bag containing Faruta's body in a large 210-liter drum, then mixed and filled it with concrete and disposed it off. Eventually, they were all later caught and given different sentences based on their various level of engagement in her death. Thanks for watching. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. If you are a fan of dark and mysterious stories, do well to turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on our subsequent uploads. You can also follow us on Facebook where we post not just videos but short true crime stories, and on TikTok at darktimes_1.